Well, unlike every other political podcast today, I have a saved discussion of the debate for the very end of the show, and that's mainly because the debate was, in my opinion, not terribly interesting. In fairness, presidential debates are almost always boring. The last debate against Joe Biden was the exception because watching the incumbent president decay live on camera is many things: shocking, pathetic, horrifying, hilarious at times, but not boring. This time around, Trump did not have the advantage of debating an opponent who had lost his mind. Instead, he was debating one who never really had much of a mind to begin with. And this worked to Trump's advantage early on as he came out strong, hitting Kamala on her record and her habit of flip-flopping on every position she's ever had. And that set him up for one of the best lines of the night. Watch.
And policies like they have, I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
So it was a good line. And the thing about Trump's best lines is that they never seem scripted. It didn't appear that Trump came into the debate planning to make a quip about sending Kamala a MAGA hat. Maybe he did have it planned, but he delivers it naturally with impeccable comedic timing. And unlike Kamala, who can never be accused of doing or saying anything naturally, Trump had another great line when talking about Kamala's platform or lack thereof. Watch.
To know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. Just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
So another very funny line, well delivered, but Trump's very best moment, in my opinion, was not funny at all. In fact, his best moment when the topic turned to abortion. In that moment, he did the thing that I've been begging Republican politicians to do for years. You've probably heard me on this show many times urging Republicans and urging Trump to turn to their Democrat opponents and demand that they answer the questions that the media will never ask them. And Trump did exactly that here.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's the problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
So that's all you have to do. You know, as I've been ranting forever on this show and before I had the show, Democrats want to keep the abortion conversation revolving around the extreme cases. They want to talk about rape, incest, alleged life of the mother situations where abortion is allegedly medically necessary, even though abortion is actually never medically necessary. But these cases account for fewer than 1% of all abortions. The more we allow the debate to focus on the 1% of cases, the more we allow Democrats off the hook. So Democrats demand that Republicans deal with all of the intricacies and nuances and fine distinctions. Meanwhile, Democrats never want to grapple with abortion in even the broadest terms. They don't want to answer even the most basic questions about where they draw the line. Yes, they think it's important that rape victims can get abortions. That's been established. Now, putting the rape cases aside, what about every other case? Where do they draw the line with those? Do they draw a line? Is there any kind of abortion at any stage of pregnancy that they would object to? Do they think it's okay to kill fully developed infants in the womb who would be viable outside the womb? Do they think it's okay to kill a baby who could just as well be delivered healthy and alive and given up for adoption? Is abortion an acceptable and morally permissible alternative to adoption? The Democratic answer to these questions, of course, is yes. They believe it's perfectly acceptable to kill a baby at any point in the womb, no matter how healthy or viable the developed child or developed that child is. They absolutely favor killing fully developed infant children, but they don't want to admit that out loud. You have to put them on the spot, which for a few brief seconds there, Trump did, and I think it was his best moment. Unfortunately, things took a bit of a turn shortly after that. Trump it seemed to me, came out focused and on point. Kamala came out nervous and shaky, her voice sounding even whinier than usual. But about midway through, there was a shift. Kamala laid the trap that her advisors had planned. She dangled out the bait. And sadly, Trump went for it. Watch.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success.
So that was it. That was the what they had planned for Trump. Kamala said that Trump's rallies are boring, and for Trump, that is a dagger straight to the heart. Hits him in a spot where he's the most sensitive, and he got angry and responded with a rambling, unfocused, and defensive answer. Now, to this moment in the debate, he was on the attack. He was bringing everything back to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and their record. He was bringing everything back to that, and. But this is where he went on defense. And from that point on, seemed to me he never quite recovered. Now, it's obvious, look, Monday morning quarterback and all that, hindsight is 20/20, but it is obvious what he should have said. He should have said, look, we're here to discuss the most important issues facing our country. American families are suffering. And yet Kamala Harris is wasting our time talking about the entertainment quality of my rallies. I don't care if she thinks my rallies are boring. This is not an issue that matters to the people of this nation. It's obvious why she doesn't want to talk about those issues, because all you have to do is look at her record. And that's the answer, and it's an easy answer. And by handling it that way, you pivot back to the Biden-Harris record, and you make her look silly and small for bringing up the subject to begin with. That's the risk, right, for the bait. And she baited Trump again and again in the debate after that. Similar kinds of like little needling him in there and on these kinds of issues. But the risk on their side when they try to bait Trump with this stuff is that if he doesn't take the bait, they look ridiculous. So she would have looked ridiculous for bringing up the fact that Trump's rallies are boring. She would have looked ridiculous if he had not taken the bait. But he did. And through most of the debate after that, he was defensive and unfocused. In fact, again, Kamala would bait Trump in similar ways several times more throughout the night, and he took the bait every single time. It was frustrating to watch. Yet, that was not the story of the night. The story was not Trump, and it wasn't Kamala. Instead, it was Kamala's tag team partners who are the moderators. Now, we knew that Trump would be in a 3-on-1 cage match against Kamala and her campaign surrogates disguised as debate moderators. What we didn't know, and many of us didn't expect, is that they would be so blatant about it. David Muir and Lindsay Davis of ABC News did not even feign objectivity. Rather, they ganged up on Trump, argued with him, and fact-checked him on the spot several times. Kamala, meanwhile, was allowed to lie and distort the facts with reckless abandon, never suffering a fact-check or even a follow-up. Daily Wire put together a montage that summarizes the whole night. So we'll see here Kamala lying and not being fact-checked, and then Trump getting fact-checked repeatedly. Watch.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals.
If Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
Migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI defraud.
Honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said there
they
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread
standing.
fraud.
That's the other thing.
There was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
So there you have Kamala lying about Trump repeatedly with no fact checks. Meanwhile, Trump was fact checked, even when his statements were completely true. It was a despicable and shameful performance by the media. But they'll feel no shame for it. After all, these people believe, or have told themselves anyway, that they are the vanguards protecting us from a man who seeks to end our democracy and usher in 1,000 years of tyranny. They'll do or say whatever is necessary to prevent that. And it's for our own good. You know, that's how they see it. Journalistic ethics, objectivity, truth, all of these things are expendable. They must be thrown out the window, and they have been in order to stop Trump. Of course, the irony is that their efforts to sabotage Trump, once again, probably had the opposite effect. Thanks to the embarrassing performance by the moderators, the story of the night is their embarrassing performance. It was not Trump's strongest showing, but it was perhaps the media's most reprehensible showing, which becomes the only significant takeaway from the event. Kamala did not win. Trump didn't win. But the media lost, and lost whatever meager shreds of credibility they may have still had in the minds of the most naive among us. And a loss for the media is a win for Trump by default. And that is why, after last night, the ABC moderators and the entire corporate media complex are all today canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.